300 to freedom, baby. You already know what it is. I know it's been a minute since I checked in with y'all, but y'all know the show don't stop. The show don't never stop. So we're gonna talk about what they don't tell you about music contracts. You know, my sister was signed a long time ago. This was years ago. My sister was signed to Warner Brothers, and at the time that label was ran by LL Cool J. But things was much different back then. You know what I mean? Like, my sister is one of my greatest motivations. One of my greatest motivations for why I make music, for why I do what I do. And growing up, you know what I'm saying? Growing up, we always had music playing in the crib. You know, whether it was Biggie Smalls, Jay-Z, Lil Kim, Nas, Method Man, The Lox, you know, mad artists, Busta Rhymes, you feel what I'm saying? Like the greats of the greats, the legends, the OGs, you know what I mean? Like a lot of that my sister was playing before she got signed, but she got signed at a time when, you know, in those days, things was different. We ain't have the internet. We ain't have no, well, we had the internet. Let me not say that. We had the internet, but we ain't have no streaming platforms. Back in those days, it was like if you knew a motherfucker who could rap, or you knew somebody who could sing, and they was your friend, and you had to connect up at the label, or you had somebody who was a manager who had connections to the music, you know, music execs and record labels, you could bring that friend up to the label and have them spit, have them sing for them, and they might walk out the building with a record deal. They might just walk out the building with a record deal. That's the times that's how it was before this era that we have now. You know what I mean? When internet wasn't booming like that, you know, no streaming platform, none of that. So at that time, my sister got signed, and the way she got signed was the label was looking at a lot of different female artists, and it came down to my sister and this one other artist at the time, and they made them basically battle it out, and they felt my sister won, so they ended up signing her to Warner Brothers. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget it. She even came home, had an advance check and everything. So I say that to say, you know, music is in my blood. You know, music will forever be a part of me. And just that style and that culture will always be a part of me, because, you know, another thing, my mom is Jamaican. You know what I'm saying? My mom is Jamaican. I'm happy that I got that Jamaican flavor within me. You know what I'm saying? My mother being born and raised in Jamaica. You know, that style, that culture, that smoking weed culture, that reggae vibe, you know, the party vibe, dance hall, all that shit. So I'm proud of that, right? And then my dad, my pops is American, right? My pops is 100% American. So I think those things coming together, and the people who I was raised by, is what really created my love for music. You know what I'm saying? On that type of level, to be real with y'all. But it's 300 to freedom, yo. Like, you got to know who you are when it comes to music. I know there's a lot of dope underground artists out there. There's a lot of independent artists out there who's fire, right? And you just got to keep going. You got to keep pushing. You can't stop. You can't give a fuck about what a hater got to say. You can't give a fuck about what a jealous or envious motherfucker got to say about you. You just got to keep going, keep dropping songs, keep dropping new music, keep marketing yourself, keep branding yourself. Speaking of branding, you know, for all of you up and coming artists out there, I have a free ebook in the description below where you can learn how to take your independent musical career to the next level, right? I'm touching on things like branding, how to market yourself, touching on things about what it takes to build yourself a fan base, because you more than just a fucking artist. You're not just a rapper or a singer. Nah, you bigger than that. You a brand. Like, literally, you're like a company in yourself. You got to look at yourself that way if you want to make it far. But yeah, so the thing with music that a lot of people don't talk about, right? What I find from my research, and especially talking to my sister, and I asked her what it was like at the time when she was signed. Eventually, she ended up feeling like she was alone on the road all the time. She ain't have no road dogs with her. She ain't have her friends. You know, her peers wasn't traveling with her. So a lot of the times going on the road, she felt alone. So she got to a point where she was so lonely that she ended up stopped going to the studio. She ended up really like kind of like breaking away from the label and kind of just, you know, going back to her regular life, because she was only 18 when she got signed. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think she had a very good support system to stay in her ear, to be on her, to keep going, and to not let the loneliness make her stop doing what she's doing. So unfortunately, what ended up happening is she just said fuck it and just kind of like came back home, you know. But from what she told me, you know, when it comes to this music shit, and when it comes to getting signed, when it comes to the contracts, one thing she had with her that's very, very important, and I always tell artists this, right, all the time, it's very important to have your own lawyer oversee the contract that you're thinking about signing, right? It's very important to have your own lawyer, your own private lawyer who's there for you, who can oversee the contract that you're about to sign and break down what things mean, like an entertainment lawyer. I remember my sister had an entertainment lawyer, so she ain't have a bad deal or nothing like that. So not all deals are bad, you know, but we are in a different musical era right now. Shit is different in the music game now. So you got to keep that in mind, but always have your own lawyer, your own entertainment lawyer, look over the contract you're about to sign. What the lawyer's going to do, what the label's going to do is, obviously they're going to present the contract like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're going to be talking about the advance check you're about to get. They're going to be talking about the money they're going to be investing into you, right? They're going to be talking about all the good shit. But they usually don't talk about the cons, right? They don't talk about the negatives. And a lot of people don't talk about the fact that, well, people talk about this, right? Let me not say people don't talk about what I'm about to say. But when it comes to these contracts, you got to look at it as the label is investing their money into you. They the ones with the big money, right? And I know a lot of times I may say negative things about record labels and record deals, but to be honest with you, just because you're going to sign to a record label, it don't necessarily mean they trying to rob you all the time. It don't necessarily mean that. You might find a deal, you might find a contract that goes well with what you want. You might find a contract that is going to benefit you. So if you find a contract and your lawyer says to you that it's a fair contract and in the long run, you're going to be able to benefit financially, go for it. Sign the motherfucking deal. Let's get this money. Let's do what the fuck we got to do. It's 300 to freedom, right? We got to get this fucking money. We ain't letting shit stop us. But what I am saying is, understand that it's a business, right? It's a music business. So the record label is the big dog company with the money. They're going to fund you. You signing that record deal to get funded by the label because they the ones with the money. But that money isn't just free money. The money that the record label fronts you isn't just free money. A lot of people, they see the glitz and the glamour, the money they about to get, the advance check they about to get, and they get so excited and happy. But you got to check out the terms. You got to look at the fine print of the contract and see if in the long run, as you become a bigger artist, if that contract is going to benefit you financially. That's what you got to be looking at. You got to have a professional oversee and let you know. So that money they putting up to invest into you, that shit ain't free money. That's not free money. The label is a business, so they're investing into you. And just like any other investment, they're expecting a return on their investment. So what the label is banking on is you're going to drop enough hit songs so that the label could remake back the money they invested into you, whatever it is, $500,000, $1 million, and then some, because they got to make a profit. So it's not just them trying to make back the money they invested into your ass. Also, they want to make money on top of what they invested into you. And then whatever leftovers, God willing, hopefully you signed a contract that's good. Whatever leftovers is supposed to go to you. Whatever extra royalties is supposed to go back to you as the artist. God willing, right? If you signed a good contract, a good record deal, working with some trustworthy business executives, God willing, that's how it's supposed to work, right? But a lot of people don't talk about the fact that the money, you know, when people say, oh, I signed $1 million deal, that's $1 million that the label just invested into you. So that's $1 million you got to pay back off of your work. So you got to do enough work. When you get signed, it's like, that's like when the shit really starts, right? Now you could choose to be independent, right? Which is something that I recommend a lot of dope artists do for at least for a long enough time to build a solid fan base. And the reason why it's important, in my opinion, to build a fan base independently is before you sign with a major record deal, right? The reason why I say that is because if you dope and you fire and you got amazing music, see how much of a fan base, see how much of a core fan base you could build before you sign to a label. Because before you go, when you go to that label and you got a big fan base running with you, you got a big fan base supporting your music and what you do, it's gonna have, the label is gonna see you as being way more valuable. The label is gonna see you as someone that they can work with, and they're gonna feel like their investment is gonna be safe with you because you already bringing a fan base to the table. You already know how to run your own business, essentially, right? If you have your own fan base, that means you already know how to market yourself. You know how to brand yourself. You basically know how to run your own ship without a label even co-signing you or putting their money up behind you. So all a core fan base is gonna do is gonna allow you to have leverage. That's what it's gonna do. When you build your own fan base, you're gonna have leverage now. You're gonna have leverage now. Now when you go into those meetings with those execs and those record labels, they can't just give you whatever willy-nilly motherfucking contract and tell you to sign it. Now you can negotiate, like, look, I got this much fans right here. I got this much people supporting me. I got this much people engaging with me on my social media, whatever the case may be, whatever it is where you could show proof that, yo, I'm getting some numbers, you know what I mean? Like I'm building steam, like, yo, work with me. Now you have leverage. You have something you could bring to the table. Now you can negotiate the terms of the contract that you want. Now you can negotiate the terms. So instead of, let's say, the record label getting 20% off of whatever you make, now maybe you might be able to negotiate that they only get 10%. Or you might be able to negotiate that it's just a partnership, right? Half and half. Like we work together, like you, like the label is a partner of you. They're not basically like your mommy and daddy or some shit putting all this money behind you and you don't have nothing to bring to the table. Nah, it ain't like that when you have a fan base. When you build your fan base as an independent artist, the label is gonna take you more seriously. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. The label is gonna take you more seriously when you bring in a fan base that fucks with you and support your music to the label, right? So, but before all of that, man, you just gotta be real. You gotta be authentic. You gotta be yourself. You gotta know where you come from. I know I rep the city of Elmont all day. I rep Elmont all day, although I grew up as well in Queens because my pops always lived in Queens. So I was back and forth from Elmont to Queens all the time. But my hometown is Elmont, you know what I'm saying? And you gotta always bring where you from, remember where you from, and bring that to the top with you. Don't ever forget where you come from. Don't forget your identity. Be who you are, because at some point, as you continue to keep it real, you continue to be yourself, and you continue to tell your story, somebody gonna feel you. Somebody gonna feel you. Somebody's gonna fuck with your message. Somebody gonna resonate with what you're talking about. So don't never lose sight of who you are, even while you building your craft and you getting better at writing, you getting better at delivering your music, you getting better at recording. Keep doing that shit, but never forget where you come from. Never forget where home is. You feel what I'm saying? Never forget that. Never forget that shit. Take that shit to you all the way to the top. Take that shit with you all the way to the motherfucking top. 300 to freedom, baby. Like I'm being 100 with you, like for real. Drop a comment below. Let me know y'all thoughts on this. You know what I'm saying? If you support my channel, you want to keep supporting what I do, and you fuck with what I'm doing, you fuck with the message that I'm sharing, make sure to click on some merch, support my merch, cop some merch. You know what I mean? A hoodie, Elmont hoodie, a 300 to freedom hoodie, whatever it is you like, you're gonna get it within 5 to 7 business days. Once you purchase your merch, you're gonna receive whatever it is you ordered within 5 to 7 business days. So I'm here to just say, like, look, when it comes to those contracts, you want to sign because contracts, you could be in business with these labels for a long time, right? And you don't want to make the sad mistake that a lot of artists make, where you so focused on the money, you don't even know what's going on with the terms and conditions of the contract. You don't want to get jammed up later on. You don't want to get to the point where you feel like you're being robbed by a label and you're not being treated fairly, right? So the way to avoid that is, like I said before, bring your own lawyer, but also understand what the contract entails. And also look at the terms, how long the contract is gonna last for, how many albums, how many singles, how many years. Does it go by albums? Does it go by years? All of that stuff is gonna matter. You know what I'm saying? What are the splits like? What are the percentages? You know what I'm saying? Like, all of that shit you gotta know, all the ins and outs, because the contract, that's gonna become your business. Literally, that contract is, when you sign that dotted line, you put your name there, you locking down how shit is gonna run for the next 5 to 10 years for your musical career from a financial perspective. That's basically what you're doing. And another thing a lot of people don't talk about with these contracts, which is crazy, is that they won't tell you is that, let's say the label put up $1 million behind your first album, right? And let's say that first album doesn't do well, or let's say that first album only recoups, let's say $500,000 of the $1 million they put up for that album. What ends up happening is, when it's time for your promo run of your second album, right? The first album, let's say the first album only brought back 500,000. When it's time for your promo run of your second album, and they gotta put out, let's say they put out another $1 million behind the second album, rolling the dice, hoping that, you know, what ends up happening is now you in debt $1.5 million, right? Because it's $500,000 you owe from the first album, and now they just put up a whole new $1 million for your second project. Now you $1.5 million in debt. That's how this shit works. It's like the loan, it's like a loan from a bank that kind of keeps rolling over. Now, if your first album does great, and you hitting them numbers, your singles is popping, you got a single that's platinum or some shit, and it's on the radio, and it's getting big, it's getting a lot of streams, whatever the case may be, and the label is able to recoup probably just off of a couple singles on your album, and they make more than what they invested into you, now you good. Now you good. Now you can negotiate, yo, nah, I need 1.5 million for my next album, right? Or you might say, I need 3 million for my next album now. Look how good I did on my first album. You get what I'm saying? Once you prove yourself, now you could talk better business with the labels. That's how this shit works, right? That's how this shit works. So anyway, this is Jada's Creek, y'all. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about this. But yeah, like, you got to find what inspires you. Remember where you come from. And just keep going. Keep going, baby. I'm going to see you on the next video. Peace.